Oh my god!
No, bro. You just make me a seat.
There are many stories of the Vietnamese martyrs across history. Their belief in God's love was never a mystery. Among the martyrs of the city of Nam Dinh were 3 soldiers, Dinh Dat, Viet Huy, and Duc Te stood together in their Catholic faith, solid as a boulder. It all began on June of 1838, when Trịnh Quang Can, an official of the king, surrounded 500 soldiers at a banquet. Among them were our 3 soldiers, unaware of what terrible things their future would bring. On one side of the tribunal stood executioners with inflicting instruments of pain, while the other side lay several large crucifixes, the very symbol that betrayed God's king's reign. The official spoke to the crowd, assuring the goodness of the king.
He is more than a father and mother to you soldiers. In your rich rewards, you will rejoice in your rich rewards. The only thing you must do is renounce your Christian religion and step over the cross.
And many of them did as they were told, their faith so easily tossed. Nearly all of the soldiers of Christ gave into temptation. But ultimately, 3 soldiers stood their ground firmly without any hesitation. The official became frustrated, for the soldiers were set in their ways. So he sent them to prison, where they were beaten and tortured for days. As each day came and go, new methods of tortures were created. Their betrayal to God and his religion, the official awaited. However, at the end stood 3 soldiers, firm in their place. They were ready for all the terrible things they would continue to face. After another month of imprisonment, the official became desperate and told his soldiers,
Bring me their family. I will threaten to kill them, and they will step over the cross indefinitely.
Their family was brought before them, crying and pleading. They begged for the official to let their husband go, as their feet were bleeding. And finally, they succumbed for the sake of their wives, knowing that they were going to make the biggest regret of their lives. One by one, they stepped over the cross of agony. On the other side were their wives and mother, opening their hands with sympathy. They were each given 10 coins and were let go, but guilty were their conscience. This they did know. They went to a priest and confessed their fault with tears, whom advised them to return to the official without any fear. Admitted to his presence, they threw the bag of coin at the official's feet and declared that their consciences were violated at the king's conceit.
We would rather suffer all the tortures, even death, than to renounce our God, for his grace and love for us will never be taught.
The official called his guards and commanded them,
"These soldiers home and guard them. These streets of Namdin, they will never again roam."
Before they left for the king, Dat said to his friends, arrived at Hue and confronted the king at his court. Ready to confront the king with that spiritual support. However, the king told his soldiers to put them in prison, for they have not followed his orders, and once again, they suffered through more tortures. Until finally, the king could not stand it anymore.
"I will give you a choice to decide who you truly died for. If you pass over the cross, I will give you this reward. If not, do with the sword."
On hearing this proposition, they replied they preferred death.
Our Lord's name will put into our last and final breath.
And so, on June 12, 1839, with one deadly motion, they were executed, dismembered, and thrown into the ocean. Back at Namdin, toward the end of June, Dat learned about the fate of his friends and was happy, for he would be able to see his God very soon. He bade his family and friends goodbye and asked them to pray that he will receive the necessary strength, for his love of God he will convey. The king presented the cross and gave him one last chance, but he refused and turned away without a second glance.
"I have suffered the greatest torments for my love of God, but to desecrate his cross, to that I will never go. Both my brothers have let out the final cry. I too to die."
And with his final request, he was executed, his body laid bare. As people stood there and watched, nothing but silence was in the air. Brave, courageous, and inspirational are only a few of countless words to describe these men and women. The lives of 117 Vietnamese martyrs all have something in common. Each one of them has their own story to tell. Through the cruel tortures they endured, their bodies fell. The blood and tears they shed will always be remembered. With their love and faith in God, throughout their suffering, they never surrendered.